What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another NFL video. That's right, switching it up. I know it's been a little bit since I've uploaded on the channel, but figured I'd kind of hit you with a curveball real quick and touch up on another topic, which is NFL. The draft is tomorrow night, and I've been meaning to do this video for a little while now, but as you know, my life lacks any and all structure. So things just keep getting in the way, and I have to keep putting this off. And finally, I have some time right now to quickly go over this. And there's a lot I want to cover because a lot has happened. Even today, like within the last couple of hours, something went down that I have to talk about, which you no doubt see on the screen in front of you. And that is the huge, in my opinion, huge trade. Because I consider any trades that take front page news on sports right before the draft or leading up to the draft to be huge news. So we're going to go ahead and just talk about this for a little bit. But before we do, real quick, if you're into this type of stuff, if you enjoy these types of videos, it'd be really great if you hit the like button, all that good stuff. Subscribe. I know I kind of do a bunch of things on this channel, mainly Magic the Gathering stuff, but I am going to be doing more NFL videos and whatever other topics I want to do. I know I've mentioned movie reviews and all that other stuff multiple times, and I've got plenty, but again, things just keep coming up and I just don't have the time. So this is top of the line front page that I want to deal with. So obviously, as you see here, the Carolina Panthers, as I said in my first NFL video going over free agency, I knew Sam Darnold was going to be the guy. There was going to be no competition. He was going to be the starter, and I'm still holding on to that right now. There's some chatter that the Panthers may try for a quarterback in this draft, but I don't see it. They have P.J. Walker. They got Will Grier backing up Sam Darnold. They're going to go with the Sam Darnold experience, and I honestly think he's going to play well. I don't see why he won't. So people have he's pretty much become a meme at this point because of the Jets, and I look at that as more of a cause of being on the Jets in general. So this is going to be basically his make or break. If he can't do it here with Matt Rule reuniting with one of his favorite targets when he was in New York, Robbie Anderson, it's going to be a tough sell for him to go anywhere else. So, but I have faith that he'll make it happen in Carolina. And now with Teddy Bridgewater being traded to Denver for a 6th round pick, just shows that they're all in on Sam Darnold. And from what I've heard, Bridgewater is there to mainly add depth and experience to their quarterback room. And it's basically going to be a competition with Drew Lock. Word is from Adam Schefter with his sources that the Broncos are still in the market for a quarterback. I don't know about that. They've got a young prospect with Drew Lock who has shown flashes but has failed to kind of take that next level in terms of consistency. Bridgewater, we all know what he can do. He's a serviceable quarterback at this point in his career. Really unfortunate the way things turned out for him in Minnesota. I was really upset when he had that horrible knee injury. But I mean, that's just the way it is. But I think Denver at this point may just roll with what they got and maybe get a quarterback in one of the later rounds, like 2nd or 3rd round. I don't know. There's really no need for them to make a play. I mean, if Trey Lance happens to fall into their lap, maybe they take him. And this is going to kind of segue into my next thing, the quarterbacks. That's the main thing I want to talk about in this draft, are the quarterbacks. So everybody is talking about Trevor Lawrence going number 1 overall to the Jaguars, where I agree. That is the sensible option. I completely agree with that. But this is one thing I'm keeping open here. Urban Meyer is most known for his time at Ohio State. He's coached a lot of the same type of quarterback at Ohio State with the exception of like Cardale Jones. But he's coached the same type of player, quarterback at Ohio State as Justin Fields. Now, a lot of people are saying Justin Fields has fallen back on the draft board past like number 10, which I agree with, and I'll go over in just a second. But to think that Urban Meyer would pass up a chance to draft Trevor Lawrence is out of this world. But you never know. You never know. That was just something I was thinking about. Imagine the shockwaves if Urban Meyer were to go with, someone who was in a system that he ran at Ohio State. Well, not really he ran, but a program that he's familiar with and has experience working with a quarterback with talents such as Justin Fields over Trevor Lawrence, and then Lawrence is doomed to the Jets at number 2. I'm sure that's not going to happen. I'm almost positive that's not going to happen, but it is fun to speculate. Now, with all that nonsense aside, Trevor Lawrence going number 2, the Jets taking Zach Wilson, which I don't know how I feel about that. Zach Wilson had solid years, looks real natural as a passer, but he just, I don't know, just something about the college that he comes from, and I don't know enough about Zach Wilson. The highlights they've shown, he's been virtually no pressure, he's had clean pockets, and if he's going to the Jets, that's just not going to be the issue. It's not going to be the case, and he's also not going to have very many people to throw to. They have some options there in New York, but I don't know. Wilson he's one of those people that could be an absolute steal or for the Jets, because everybody, well, maybe not even a steal, because they're drafting him at number 2, so they're projected to draft him at number 2, so it's if he ends up being what would be considered a steal in a later pick, it's about what you'd expect from a number 2 overall player. But anything short of that, it's going to be looking kind of suspect. Then come the 49ers with that huge trade that they had with it was like a 3-way trade. It was with them, the Eagles, and someone else. I think it was part of that Colts deal that they had where the Eagles sent Wentz to Indiana. I don't know. It feels like it was so long ago, I can't remember, and I didn't bring it up before recording. But anyway, Niners there. And this is going to go into the first thing I want to talk about, and that's Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones is going to be the most underrated quarterback drafted in this draft, period. I'm not saying he's going to end up being a better player than Trevor Lawrence. I'm not going to say he's going to be an elite tier, superstar quarterback, the next great thing in the NFL, though I'm not leaving that possibility out. But I definitely see where the 49ers have taken an interest in him. And I'm going to go over some things that I've noticed when looking over his tape, looking at his stats. He has basically football knowledge. Football IQ is very high, in my opinion. His decision making is very good. His ability to move through progressions without getting panicked or flustered is these are all signs you want to see in a top level college, in a top level quarterback in the draft. These are all things you want to see. And for me personally, that's what I would like to see. Decision making, not getting panicked when you have to go through your first, second, third read, decisiveness, and of course high football IQ. Of course, he's not an elite level athlete like Lawrence or Fields. He doesn't have a cannon like Josh Allen, but the thing, like I said, he just knows exactly what needs to be done on every single play. Now, we're going to go ahead and take a look at his stats here. And the first thing I noticed was completion percentage. A 77.4 completion percentage. That is awesome, in my opinion. Consistency with every single throw that you make. That's the number. That's one of the best qualities to have. One thing I didn't see on this list is obviously yards per attempt, but he only went under 70% twice in this past year. And even those two games, they weren't necessarily bad games. They were just below average compared to the rest of the year that he had. The first one here against UConn, where they freaking blew them out 63-3, he was 16 for 24, 230, 2 touchdowns, a pick, and he wasn't sacked at all. I mean, obviously it was a blowout, but he had a 66.7, which is average. That's like average right there. Then the next one was against Auburn. 302 yards, 69.2, 5 touchdowns, was only sacked one time. But 69.2. The rest of the year, he is at 7. He is above 70. I don't even think he hit 70 on the dot, but he was like above 70% completion percentage. Another thing I look at, aside from the 4,500 passing yards, 41 touchdowns, and 4 picks, the number of times he was sacked, 13 times. Now, you can take that one of two ways. You can take that as stellar offensive line, which, of course, is Alabama. They've got good players. They've got great players. But what I see here, especially for quarterback who is throwing the ball on average, it looks to be nearly 25 times a game. He was only under 25 throws twice. He was above 30 5, 6, 7 times, if you're including the postseason. What I see here, outside of that, of offensive line giving him protection, is not taking sacks, knowing when to get rid of the ball, checking down, finding open receivers. So that's what I see. That's what I see when I look at this. And then you look at the playoffs. I mean, 83% completion, 297, 4 touchdowns, only sacked one time. Ohio State. Ohio State was the talk of the town after they crushed Clemson. What does Mac Jones do? He comes out and silences everybody. 45 pass attempts, 464 yards, 80% completion, 5 touchdowns, only sacked twice. It's just the rating was through the roof, 203. I mean, that's just, in my opinion, that was really the moment where I had my eyes on Mac Jones. I was like, wow, he just torched Ohio State. I mean, it wasn't even a ball game. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up some. Now, I know I have a new mic, but the freaking leaf blowers are outside, of course. The one time I get to record a video. All right. So here, this is where I was going to break down. This is more on the line of improvisation. Play breaks down, directs traffic, boom. Play that again. So, right here, this is against Georgia. Play breaks down, has pressure in his face, boom, completes it. Now, granted, his receiver does a really good job of coming back to the ball, but you're going to have receivers. This is NFL. That's the expectation right there in the NFL, coming back to the football for your quarterback. You can see by the time his receiver catches it, he's already on the ground. So that's example number 1. Let me bring up example number 2. Here, this is his, like I said, football IQ, and also just knowing exactly what to do on a play. This is an example of his accuracy and touch in the face of pressure, no less. So this is against Mizzou. You can see here, up the middle, boom, takes a hit, 2 defenders, drops it in, dime, right there, touchdown. And you can see by the time his receivers caught the ball, he's already on the ground looking up to make sure he caught it. So we'll run that again. And, again, just knowing exactly what to do off the bat, knew what the defense was doing, boom, touchdown. So, let me close this. last one I'll show here against Ohio State in the championship game. This is what I was talking about again, going back to football knowledge, not panicking when you have to go through your progressions. This is like NFL, like elite NFL level quarterbacking here in the red zone. And this is some of the toughest things to do when you're a quarterback in the NFL and even at the college level. I mean, this is the championship game, is when you're in the red zone, space is limited, and you can work through your progressions and find that window to throw to your receiver. So you can see here, if this ever plays, hikes the ball, boom, 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 right there, touchdown. So I'll play that again. Hold on. All right. I don't know why this took forever. Some of these clips. So you can see here, immediately looking to his right. I'm not a big fan of these jumbo packages on the side. Sometimes they work in getting the defense to get crisscrossed with each other, but usually it just creates a traffic jam. So he looks to his right, looks in towards the middle. You can see here he's looking for his man right here in the back, not open, sees his receiver breaking out towards the sideline and throw. This is just a perfect throw, exactly where it needs to be after going through essentially 3 receivers. At least 2 different targets on one side, on the right side, 1 target back of the end zone, last target left side of the field, all the way across the end zone. And then boom, puts it right where it needs to be for the touchdown. So that's why I believe Mac Jones has what it takes. And when you're talking about a Kyle Shanahan offense, it's all about timing. My opinion, that's exactly the kind of quarterback Matt Ryan was, and that's exactly why Matt Ryan had the season that he had with Kyle Shanahan. And I think the 49ers, now again, this is all speculation because, the draft, you can make all these predictions with the draft. Nothing is final until the season starts, when you know who's injured and who's not, who's starting, who's not, and then also by week 6, when the mass injuries have taken place by that point. But with all that aside, this is why I believe Mac Jones is going to be in a great position for success if he is indeed taken by the San Francisco 49ers. They have a ton of playmakers, and I've said this for years, obviously not on the record, but in inner circles, especially back when I used to watch football, live and breathe football, played football, all that kind of stuff. Nothing is better for a rookie quarterback than an all-pro, reliable tight end, and that's George Kittle. Matt Ryan had the same thing when he went to Atlanta with Tony Gonzalez. So nothing is better for a rookie quarterback than an all-pro, Mr. Reliable security blanket tight end that you can always depend on in those crucial moments when you need to find someone to get the ball to in a hurry. So outside of that, you also have a bunch of receivers that may not be bona fide number ones, but they all have one thing in common. They're quick, they're fast, and they can get open. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. Is Pettis or is it Bourne that left and went somewhere else? I can't remember. And they also, excuse me, they also have some solid running backs as well. So I think Mac Jones is going to be in a perfect position here. Now, this goes on to my last point, which I alluded to earlier with Justin Fields. I'm not taking anything away from Justin Fields. I think he is a superb athlete. I think he's going to have a chance to really do some things with whoever he is drafted by. And I honestly think whoever is left in those early rounds may trade up to get him. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was Chicago. But Chicago tried something like this with Mitchell Trubisky years ago. And they gave up a good chunk to move up, like 1 or 2 spots or something like that, to draft Mitchell Trubisky. So if I were the Bears, I would take that with an abundance of caution. I would even see if Trey Lance falls to me. If the Bears hold on to their pick and they hold out, because all the eyes are going to be on Justin Fields if he slips. All the eyes are going to be on him. No one's going to be looking at Trey Lance. If the Bears end up in a position where they can choose between the two, obviously you could take Justin Fields because he's got more of a resume than Lance. But if someone moves up and takes Fields, the door is wide open to take Trey Lance, and there's no hurry to start him. You have a starter in Andy Dalton, and I know the jokes about Andy Dalton, but I think he's still a fine, serviceable quarterback to kind of bridge the gap from one franchise quarterback fail to a new possible franchise quarterback. But what I was going to talk about with Fields is, sure, his completion percentage was good, 70%, but Mac Jones just had it at another level, damn near 80% completion percentage. Fields also, in his career at Ohio State, I know this year was a lot different for obvious reasons. There was no football in September. But even going back when he had a full season, you could see he didn't crack 3,000 yards passing, even though he started every game. He only hit over 300 yards twice. I mean, you can kind of count this, I guess. But another thing that jumps out at me are the sacks. He was sacked 27 times in 2019. In 2020, even with the depleted schedule, he was sacked 21 times. Now, I don't know what you make of that. Do you bring that up to poor offensive line, or is that someone who holds the ball for too long? Here, 2,100 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 picks. Obviously, all eyes are on his 2019 season where he threw 40 and 1. But I look at both of these years. I mean, if you look at his bad games, for example, obviously the one against Rutgers was his best game, in my opinion. 314, 5 touchdowns, an 85% completion percentage. I mean, if you're going by completion percentage is 95, obviously, in his first game against Nebraska. But Rutgers, I mean, you know, this was something. The game against, first one was Indiana, where they barely escaped that one. He completed only 60% of his passes, which in the NFL honestly isn't that great. I mean, that's about like subpar. He threw for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he turned the ball over 3 times, and he was sacked 5 times. He did run for 15 times for 78 yards and a touchdown, but still, I mean, you're sacked 5 times. You throw 3 interceptions. I mean, you turn the ball over just 3 times from your quarterback, it's going to be tough to win a game. But they won, and they won by a touchdown against Indiana. Then turns around, has a pretty good game. I mean, 70% completion, but he only threw he completed 17 passes for only 199 yards. He threw 2 touchdowns. He was also sacked again another 3 times, but his big damage was on the ground. 13 attempts, 104 yards, 2 touchdowns. The one that kind of had my eyes open a little bit, outside of his crushing of Clemson, was the game against Northwestern. He only completed 12 passes. He threw 27 times. He only threw 114 yards. Only had a 44% completion percentage. He turned the ball over twice. He was sacked 3 times. Couldn't run. And this was the game that they were bailed out by Trey Sermon, where he ran for ridiculous 300-plus yards and 2 touchdowns on 29 freaking carries. The guy was a workhorse that game. And he was the reason why they won. You take those 14 points off the ground, say Trey Sermon got hurt, say he never transferred. He transferred there this year. Say he never transferred. You're looking at a loss here. And this is the Big Ten championship game. So then you go to the postseason. They whoop up on my boy Trevor Lawrence to the tune of 6 touchdowns. This was his best, in my opinion, his most defining game here was this game. But then they go against Alabama, and again, only completed 50% of his passes, didn't crack 200, only threw 1 touchdown. He was only sacked 1 time. He did run a bunch. He did run for a bunch of yards, I should say. So while he didn't turn the ball over, he definitely was not accurate. You can tune that to defensive strategy. You can do whatever. Bad day at the office. I'm just saying. The only difference between these two quarterbacks outside of the stats is starts, I think, right? Because Mac Jones, what was his 2019 like? Okay, 2019, he had a normal year. But he didn't, well, 2019 he played. I should say he played. He did not start. He only had 1,100 yards. Made the most of it, 11 touchdowns. But he had a really good game here in the Citrus Bowl. 327, 3 touchdowns, 64% completion. I mean, not bad for someone just coming into a game. His Auburn loss, he wasn't, 2 picks, that's kind of like, but I think that was only his second start, maybe? I don't know. I wasn't following college football all that much in 2019, much less Mac Jones. But really, the only advantage that Justin Fields has over Mac Jones, outside of athletic ability, putting that aside, like I said, outside of stats, is experience. He has a ton of experience at starting. So I can understand why teams would be very interested in him and taking him. But at the same time, I can understand the hesitancy to pull the trigger on someone like him. Because, let's face it, unless something incredible happens, you're not looking at another Lamar Jackson here. Let's just be real. So I'm going to be really interested to see where he lands. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears either traded up to nab him or tried to hold on and wait it out, because there's plenty of other teams ahead of them that have position needs elsewhere than quarterback. So that's my case. Take from it what you will. I may decide to live stream the draft tomorrow. I may not, either on YouTube or on Twitch. We'll see what happens. We'll see how I feel. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, if you agree, disagree, or indifferent, leave a comment in the comment section down below. Consider hitting the like button, subscribe button, and I will see you all later.